garden. It's nice to have a secret garden. The last time Mary Lennox saw her parents was in the garden outside their house in India. That night, a terrible fever swept through the house. Mary's mother and father both died. Mary felt as if she was all alone in the world. Then a letter arrived from her uncle, Mr. Craven, inviting her to stay at England. The letter's here. It says, "Dear Mary, I have made arrangements for you to come to England and live at Misselthwaite Manor. My housekeeper will meet you in London and escort you here. I'm afraid I won't see you for some time, as I have to travel to Europe on business. Yours sincerely, Archibald Craven." I don't like it here, thought Mary, as she crossed the wild wind-swept moors. She arrived at the house late at night. Her uncle was away, and the housekeeper said had left her alone in the shadowy room. Outside, the wind howled like a lonely person. In the morning, Mary wandered out of the house into the wintry garden, where an old man was digging. "What's behind that wall?" she asked. "Ah," said the gardener, "that's the secret garden. Mr. Craven shut it up when his wife died. Then he buried the key and went away." As he spoke, a robin fluttered up and perched nearby. He cocked his head and looked at Mary. "Will you be friends with me?" she whispered. "You sound just like our Dickon," said the gardener. "He talks to all the wild things. Now run along, missy. I've got work to do." Mary watched the robin fly off and decided to follow him. "Show me the key to the garden," she begged. The robin swooped down and hopped around on the ground. "He is trying to show me something," thought Mary. She scrabbled in the soil and found a rusty key. Mary searched and searched for the door to the garden. Then one day, when the wind came in sweet-scented gusts from the moor, she found it. She put the key in the lock and the door creaked slowly open. Mary was inside the secret garden. It was a magical, mysterious place, a hazy tangle of rose branches, spiky green shoots thrust up through the wintry ground. Mary spent all morning in the garden entranced. The shoots looked so crowded, she cleared spaces around them. The robin chirped as though pleased someone was gardening here at last. Outside, she saw a boy with a fawn by his side. The fawn is a baby deer. "Ah, are you Dicking?" she said shyly. He nodded. "Can you keep a secret?" Mary asked. "I keep secrets all the time," Dickon replied. "Secrets about fox clubs and birds nests. Aye, I can keep a secret." "Come with me," whispered Mary, and she led him to the secret garden. Dickon looked around as if he was in a dream. "I never thought I'd see this place," he murmured. "Help me make it come alive," said Mary. "Yes," whispered Dickon, "we'll make it the prettiest garden in the whole of England." The winter passed into spring. One blustery night, Mary couldn't sleep. She was woken by a cry that pierced the wind. She followed the dark passages until she reached a door with a glimmer of light beneath. Inside the room was a vast carved bed, with a boy in the middle of it, sobbing. "Are you a ghost?" whispered Mary. "No," he snapped. "I'm Colin Craven. Mr. Craven's my uncle," said Mary. "Are we cousins? Why did no one tell me about you before?" "I'm not well," Colin replied. "My mother died when I was born, and my father can't bear to look at me." "Just like the secret garden," said Mary, and she told him all about it, the sun and rain and buds bursting into flower, while Colin closed his eyes and dreamed of a garden coming to life. Mary raced to Colin's room the next morning. "I've brought a friend to meet you," she said. "Will you take me to the garden?" asked Colin. They rushed down the paths. Mary flung back the ivy and opened the garden door. Sunshine lit up sprays of flowers and the air was alive with birdsong. "I can feel things growing," gasped Colin. "You can work with us in the garden," said Mary. Colin's pale face grew rosy in the sunlight. "And maybe I'll get well," he whispered. Every day they played and worked in the garden, and every day Colin grew stronger. If only my father could see me, thought Colin, and he began to wish, come home, come home. One night, Colin's father, far away in Italy, had a strange dream. He heard his dead wife calling his name. Where are you? He pleaded. In the garden, came the reply. Mr. Craven returned home at once. He rushed to the garden. As he came down the path, he heard children laughing behind the wall. How can that be, he thought. The garden must be dead. I buried the key. At that moment, Colin and Mary burst out of the garden door. Colin, gasped his father, is that really you? I'm better, father. I'm well at last. It was Mary and the garden. The garden, he murmured, just like my dream. It's a magical garden, said Mary. Come inside and see. And there, in the garden, is the lovely robin led her to the key right at the beginning of the book.